All right, we're going to get started here. I am so glad that you all are here tonight and just want to offer a just hearty and big welcome into the Wheaton Academy family and community. If you're a family who's been around Wheaton Academy because you've had kids move through here, welcome to you. If you are completely new to Wheaton Academy, welcome. We are so glad you are here. My name is Brad Thornton. I'm one of the school's vice principals. I'm going to have my counterpart introduce herself.
And my name is Erin Carwell, and I am the other vice principal and the dean of students. So welcome. I see a lot of new faces. I see some familiar faces. I've registered a lot of you guys when we've done freshman registration. I've seen all of your names on lists as we are preparing for Summer Academy. So it is good to have everybody sitting in this space as we do a little freshman orientation as we get ready for Summer Academy. So welcome.
Our goal is that tonight you would feel equipped with some knowledge about what's to come over the course of the next 3 weeks, and would encourage you, if there's anything that you have questions about, even after what we communicate, to feel free to stick around and find us up front here. Our goal is to make you feel confident coming in on Wednesday. Before we get going on the presentation, just a few opening comments. I do not believe it is coincidence that you're sitting here right now. I firmly believe that God has directed each of your paths to these seats. This class of students incoming, or incoming freshmen, or incoming transfers, has been prayed for fervently. We're so glad you are here. It is no accident. And I firmly believe, too, that the mission statement of Wheaton Academy will be carried out in and through this place and the teachers in your students' lives, students in your lives, that this place would help nurture growth in students through relationships, excellence, and service to the glory of God. And the key word there is growth. It's our desire that students grow in their time here. And we believe that God is a catalyst of growth, and it's to the end of His glory that we want to see people grow into greater knowledge and likeness of Him. And so I'm excited you are here, and recognize, too, that many of you are coming off the heels of a school year that was just strange for so many reasons, as it was for us. For Erin and I sitting up here, this is a little bit of whiplash in terms of the school year. Yesterday on the football field, you may have noticed coming in that there were still some chairs. I actually think most of them have been cleaned up by now. We had our commencement ceremony yesterday out on the field, and so we said goodbye to 160 plus seniors who walked across the stage receiving their diplomas. And today we're forecasting ahead for next school year with Summer Academy starting on Wednesday. So it's a very quick turnaround for us. And Summer Academy exists in this realm that's kind of strange, where it's quick on the heels of the previous school year, but it essentially is the start of next school year. And when I arrived at Wheaton Academy 8 years ago, it was a little bit of a paradigm shift for me. I traditionally thought of summer school as school that was used for more remedial or intervention purposes, because students had either failed or needed extra intervention or support, but not so at Wheaton Academy. And Wheaton Academy students are taking Summer Academy classes to get ahead of the next school year, so that when they step foot on campus in the fall, they have myriad opportunities available to them because of all the different electives that we offer and scheduling flexibility that Summer Academy affords. By my count today, we had 360 students registered for Summer Academy, which, if you do the math, is right around half of our total student population. So a lot of students are engaged and involved here. And for new students, all of you incoming freshmen and transfers, you number over 100 total registrants for Summer Academy. So large population represented, and again, can't communicate enough how excited we are. I'm going to start by taking a look a little bit more at some of our academic approach to the school year. Just to reiterate this again, this is some content that hopefully sounds a bit familiar from some of the future family nights that you may have attended, or just from connecting with our admissions department. And then we're going to get into more of the details and logistics of what the day-to-day of the school term looks like for Summer Academy. You'll notice that our academic programming is really defined by relational teaching and a Christ-centered, biblically directed education. And I think those top two bullet points really go hand in hand. I was connecting with graduates yesterday, and time again, the refrain that we hear is that what they appreciate most about Wheaton Academy are the teachers and the people that they have the opportunity to develop relationships with that become so influential and formative in their lives. I talked to a mom just last week who was describing her experience at Wheaton Academy, and she said she loved dropping off her son every morning here because she felt like she was dropping her son off at a second home. And these are testimonies and responses that I don't solicit. I don't ask for them. I'm just striking up conversation, asking about what was significant, what was formative, what was important. And these words come pouring forth, affirming the type of relationships that are formed here, that are life-giving and transformative. More than anything else, what I want students to experience here is the love of Christ, both through a student's own deepening relationship with Jesus themselves, and also because they experience the love of Jesus Christ as communicated through the adults that will be involved in their lives on a day-to-day basis. Our teachers are incredible disciples, followers of Jesus, who know how to passionately follow him while passionately encouraging students to pursue whatever discipline they're engaged with in the classroom. For me, from my background as an English teacher, that meant that I had the opportunity to point students towards Jesus through story, through what was good, beautiful, true, and redemptive in stories. I cared deeply about connecting students with the one true story while also trying to teach how to read and write those skills at an excellent and high level, all in service to our Creator. That's the way I felt in the English classroom. Whatever teacher you ask is going to have a different answer about how they encourage students to pursue Christ through the discipline that they're teaching in the classroom. And my hope is that as Summer Academy starts, students, you'll get a taste of what that's like to be under the tutelage of some outstanding people, some outstanding teachers. We were flashing the faces on the screen as you entered in, and those teachers are primarily teachers of incoming freshmen, some more introductory level courses. But as I'm seeing those faces, I'm seeing people who are passionate followers of Jesus and also care deeply about the subject matter that they're teaching in the classroom. Relationally driven teachers teaching their subject matter from a Christ-centered biblical worldview. That's what our academic programming is all about. Additionally, we are serious about developing college readiness skills. That means that not just the skills that are needed from an academic standpoint to be successful, but some of the soft skills that are necessary as well. Skills like gratitude, perseverance, passion, hope. All of these things are things that teachers should be encouraging students towards within their classroom disciplines. In fact, in a recent survey that we conducted of our seniors who are leaving to head off into college next year, we asked how many feel confident, prepared, and equipped to tackle the challenges that come along from a college education. Well over 90% said that they felt like Wheaton Academy had prepared them well. And finally, we want to encourage higher and greater levels of student ownership, especially as students are in high school. And that means that whenever I have a student, but more importantly, whenever I have a parent ask me a question about what's going on in the classroom or a concern that they have about their student and what's happening in the classroom, almost without fail, the first question I will ask is whether or not the student has spoken to the teacher. And ask the same question of the teacher or connected with the teacher. What we're trying to encourage parents, you to do, is to let your students take more and more of the driver's seat in their own education, because here's a great place to do it. Again, with the types of people that I just described, passionate followers of Jesus Christ who care deeply about student growth and learning. Our teachers are approachable, they're open, they want to help. And so that means when students come and advocate, our teachers typically do a great job in responding. They'll also do a great job in responding to you all, because one of the things we push very hard with our teachers is that we develop outstanding parent partnerships. You all are trusting us with your kids, and that's a responsibility we don't take lightly. So we want to keep you in the loop from a communication standpoint as well. And if there's anything that's askew or off, We're asking teachers, and Aaron and I do this regularly as well, where we are picking up the phone and making a phone call home just to say, hey, how can we partner to address whatever situation it is that arises? Okay, so I'm going to ask you parents, even in Summer Academy, if there's something that comes up that you have a question about, encourage your student to approach the teacher first before you get involved and ask the teacher. Now, you also know that there are some situations where you need to be involved immediately, and we're not saying don't shy away from contacting your teacher. You're certainly welcome to. But in most cases, we think it's appropriate for you to ask your student to advocate for themselves first. All right, Wheaton Academy culture. Without fail, when students enter in here, no matter what educational setting they're coming from, they will notice that this place feels different. And when I ask them to try to describe why it feels different, they have trouble putting their finger on it and articulating it. I remember about 5-6 years ago, I was taking a student on a tour around campus. He was in 8th grade at the time, and we were kind of debriefing his experience of shadowing another student for the day. And I just asked him, hey, what is it that you think is different about, like, can you articulate it? What is it that you notice when you're on campus here? And he simply said, I just feel like I feel the presence of God here. And that was because of friendly interactions he had with teachers, with students, and the fact that he could just feel a very communal sense when he was on campus. We try to put some language to that from more of a culture development standpoint by articulating that we feel like we have a mature student culture here. That means that we are going to give students the benefit of the doubt, and in most cases, treat them like adults. We think that by holding high expectations for students, students will rise to meet those expectations, and in most cases, they do. If there is a problem with meeting expectations, that's when teachers or Aaron and I will get involved. But the vast majority of our student population has no problem rising to meet our expectations because we have high expectations. We say we're going to treat you like adults. And that means that we give you higher or greater levels of responsibility than you may be used to in whatever school setting you're come from. And students, I'm talking to you directly when I say this. We're asking that you don't take advantage of that you embrace that culture, that communal feel where you are trusted, and that you help set an example for others as well to preserve that feeling that makes this place feel unique and special. That means that students, you will have access to technology in the classroom, surfaces, phones. Teachers oftentimes set some directive for how to utilize that technology by encouraging students to put phones away, to take out their surfaces only when needed. We're asking you to respectfully follow your teacher's lead on whatever those directives are. It may mean you are given 5 minutes in a class to take a break, to go out into the hallways, to get a drink of water, to use the restroom, and then to be back in your seats by a certain time. So you're given freedom to go out in the hallways, to do what you need to do, and then to be back in your seat by a certain time. Again, we're asking you to be respectful of whatever it is that teachers are asking of you. It's one of my favorite things about Wheaton Academy is that we have the opportunity to develop these relationships that are authentic and transformative within the context of a mature culture because we can trust our community. And then our human dignity policy is something that we're going to ask all students to sign. It's actually embedded in an on-campus module that we'll be talking about here in just a moment. But I encourage you to read over the language of our human dignity policy carefully. Essentially, it's what you would expect to find, that we believe that all people are created in the image of God and thus worthy of the highest levels of integrity, of respect, of honor. And that goes for while you are on campus having face-to-face interactions, while you're off campus within your online presence on social media. We ask that you respect everyone on campus here by word and by action. And that's all embedded in the language of our human dignity policy, which again, we'll be asking you all to sign off on before you start class on Wednesday. I'd be remiss if I didn't give a health update and how our community handled the COVID-19 crisis and how it pertained to our school community here at Wheaton Academy. This previous year, we kind of set forth in the school year with a pretty ambitious plan to be on campus in person for school every single day that we possibly could. We entered into this school year prudently, cautiously, prayerfully, knowing that if we were going to navigate the year successfully, it's going to be because God had faithfully guided this community into a successful school year. And I remember back in August looking at the challenges that lay ahead, feeling somewhat daunted and not knowing how it was going to go, given some of the hurdles that we needed to clear. And after last Friday, which was the last day of our finals, we had navigated 176 days of in-person learning successfully, which is a lot. And we adjusted as a community in some key ways, and some of those key adjustments are going to carry over here into Summer Academy. But I wanted to reassure you that we are very aware of what is going on at the national level, at the local level. We are working in close conjunction with the IDPH, very mindful of what is going on from directives from the ISBE and the CDC. And so all of the decisions that we are making are informed. There's a team approach, and we're making decisions with the health and well-being of our community in mind, while also recognizing that there are some elements of this past year in our schooling as we executed it that were hard and challenging, and that we're going to work to kind of iron out some of the wrinkles of even as we enter into next school year. So we are fully committed to being in person for Summer Academy and for next school year. And just with some kind of health guidelines and updates to enter into Summer Academy with, the first is pertaining to masks and to face coverings. We asked that every single day of the year when students entered into the building this previous school year, that students were wearing masks. And for Summer Academy, we're aligning with current CDC guidelines, where the recommendation for schools is that if you are not yet currently vaccinated, that masks stay on, and that if you are vaccinated, masks can come off. And so you will likely see some teachers in the classroom that are not wearing masks, which is communicating that they are fully vaccinated. We are not going to be policing vaccination, so we're not going to be asking necessarily whether or not you have been vaccinated or not, but rather trusting, again, back to that mature culture, the community feel, that if you are not wearing a mask, you have achieved what the CDC has recommended in becoming vaccinated. We are also promising to keep you informed as developments happen, as guidelines change, and that'll be communicated through some of our primary communication channels, whether that's email or the WOW Weekly. And also, what we're doing for Summer Academy is in place for the next 3 weeks. That may also change for the upcoming school year. If you have any questions about it, you can feel free to see me or our fabulous nurse in the back there. If you could just turn and take a look at Miss Jen Sesnov in the back there, she's waving. Last year was her first year at Wheaton Academy, and what a year to start. I think she deserves a huge round of applause. It is no understatement to say that we could not have navigated this year successfully without the help of Nurse Jen Sesnov. She is a wonderful person. And you can see her contact information up on the board there, up on the screen, I should say. Any questions about any health-related things can be funneled to her, or any health concerns that we need to be alerted of with your student need to be communicated through her. She is an expert on the ins and outs of all things COVID-related, and she'd be happy to talk to you.
And she will be here every day of Summer Academy.
That's right. Our classrooms are still set up as being distanced in terms of desk spacing with 6 feet of distance. That was a key part of helping us move through the school year successfully. We have the flexibility and the space capacity to be able to accommodate all our classes here at distance, and so we are going to continue to maintain that for Summer Academy. So the rooms that your students are in, they'll be at desks that are distanced. That doesn't mean that they're going to remain distanced the entire class period. There will be times where they're moving around class, grouping up. We're asking teachers to be mindful of that 15-minute contact tracing window, though, just in case there were the event of someone who were tested positive that had been in class. That doesn't wipe out necessarily a chunk of students who were in close contact. We are encouraging teachers to utilize even outside space during class, so it's possible that classes may be moving outside for a short period of time where some of the restrictions loosen a bit. And then in terms of contact tracing, some of the protocols that we had in place are still in place for Summer Academy. If we were to be in the event where someone were to test positive and be positive on campus but not know it until after, we would go through our normal contact tracing protocol, and you would be notified directly if you were deemed a close contact, which would mean a period of time off campus where Ms. Carwell and I and Mr. Bowling, I'll talk about him in just a second, would also kind of determine a course of action to stay involved with class so that learning wouldn't need to miss a beat. One of the advantages of the past year is we got really practiced at doing that to ensure that we were meeting student learning needs even if they were off campus. Okay, I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Carwell.
Awesome. Thank you, Brad. So I want to talk through now just some logistics of Summer Academy, and this is going to be specifically for you students of what it looks like arriving on Wednesday. We often hear from you guys, what is it like when you step onto campus, think through the first day? So you guys should have right now with you your Surface. You should have your key cards. Those are the two most important. This is going to get caught. The two most important things for you to have. So when you come into your morning class, we ask that you arrive 5-10 minutes before school starts. Your morning class is from 8 a.m. to 12. So if you arrive at about 7:50, when you come to the front office area, we call that the atrium, you're going to see sheets of paper with your name on them. That's going to identify where your class is going to be located. A lot of times students come in, they're thinking, where's my class at? I couldn't find where it's located. You're going to find Aaron Carwell, room 102. You're going to see a lot of people in there ready to help you out. We'll direct you to where your class is going to be going. Just a friendly reminder, all 100 level classes are on the first floor. All 200 level classes are on the second floor of the main building. So just want to give you a lot of guidance. We'll have faculty, we'll have staff ready to help you out. But the key things to have your Surface fully charged and your key card. Second reminder is, just friendly tip, that building is awfully cold. I sat in meetings all day today, and every room I went in, it's chilly. So just another friendly tip as you're arriving for the first time and you haven't taken classes before, it's chilly. So just make sure you might have a sweater or a sweatshirt or something. So making sure that you're arriving a few minutes early so you can get to class, get yourself set up, and your teacher will be ready, get you where you need to be at. So as you think through attendance, Summer Academy is 15 days. In those 15 days, you are getting a full semester of class. So we just want to emphasize attendance is really important. I know I've already been in communication with some of you parents letting me know you're going to miss 1, maybe 2 days, but it is really important that you are there from 8 to 12 for the full time, or in your afternoon class from 1 to 5. Some of you, do we have anybody in here taking a full day science class? Do I have any full day friends? You've got some upperclassmen that might be taking a full day class, which is 8 to 4. So some students are in those long full day classes where they're now getting a full semester class down in those 3 weeks of science, which is just really intense. So be mindful of the classes you're in, having the engagement from your teacher, all of that instruction, just being in there from start to finish, as we say, bell to bell, is important. So if you're scheduling doctor's appointments, looking for a time that you can do that after the class period or sometimes during lunch is really important. Another thing I want to touch on is just lunch. If you are taking 2 classes, making sure you're ordering lunch the Thursday before. We've got some special things in store working with the Shack, which is our new food truck. We're going to work on delivering some food from the Shack or some special treats for students, which is the new business innovation class that our students are doing. So we're excited to offer some new opportunities to students this summer during Summer Academy. But lunch is going to be from 12 to 1. So if you are bringing lunch, you're welcome to carry that with you. You can order lunch, and we are excited. Students can sit outside when the weather is lunch. And that goes back to mature culture, what Mr. Thornton was talking about. Making friends, sitting with people, sitting outside. There'll be designated classes that you can sit in, but really being mindful, as we are saying, of the social distancing piece of it, of making sure you're safe and making really wise choices during these times of your school day. Because we really want everybody to be part of Summer Academy all 15 days. That's really important to start off off strong and finish strong during those 15 days. So the other piece that I want to touch on is that college readiness trait that Mr. Thornton said is timeliness. When you start Summer Academy, it's really easy to slip into, by the end, that 8 o'clock arrival, that 8:05 arrival. By the end of Summer Academy, it's 8:10 because I'm tired. But really being mindful of arriving by 8 o'clock in your seat so your teacher is ready to start. There's a lot of instruction to get to you guys because you're getting so much great content. And so just really being mindful of being there ready to go in your classroom by then. I think that was my other thing. I knew there was one more. Guys, it's everybody's favorite topic, the dress code. And do not worry, we will be having a freshman welcome assembly where everybody has questions about that. But I only want to hit on the dress code for the students that are taking possibly 2 classes. And this is a question that often comes up from parents. If you're taking maybe a health and fitness class in the morning and a media arts class in the afternoon, or vice versa, we ask that you dress for your health and fitness class and bring a change of clothes to meet dress code in the afternoon. That's really important that we're meeting the standards of Wheaton Academy, which is professionalism and modesty in that. So you can look through the student handbook. I'm happy to talk to you about that. But your health and fitness teachers, or if you're taking dance, make sure you are dressed appropriately for that class, and your teachers will talk in details about what that looks like. But I know like students will be out there playing soccer or doing workouts on the field at 10 a.m., and then you might be coming into history class in the afternoon. So really making sure that you are dressed appropriate for each of those classes, and you'll have time to change for your afternoon class or change for your morning class, but making sure you're meeting dress code for most of those classes is just really important, and mindful of meeting the standards of Wheaton Academy. I'm happy to talk to you about any of those details, and it's also outlined in the student handbook. As we moved on to just student expectations in the classroom, work submission is a big piece. You guys are going to be going through a lot of instruction and submitting a lot of work. And just being mindful of most days you're going to be submitting work. Teachers will be reviewing it. They'll be giving you great feedback, what to look for, and you'll be submitting a lot of that on campus, which is why you guys have your Surface now. How many of you guys picked up your Surface today? Most of you have it. Excellent. If you didn't pick up your Surface today, you can pick it up tomorrow. But the first assignment you're going to get on campus when you open it up and go through the login is actually an on-campus class. It's going to teach you how to submit work. It's going to go through a module, which is going to be your first assignment. And we created this a few years ago because we actually realized it was our error as administrators, as teachers, of not training you guys as students of how to use on campus. Students were showing up to the first day of Summer Academy, opening their Surface, and teachers were like, log in, download this assignment, and they didn't know what they were doing. So we had a teacher create this module that allows you to walk through our learning management system. And it shows you kind of the ins and outs of what a teacher is talking about in a class, how to download everything from their perspective, how to upload assignments. There's something called like a messaging system, which I use all the time with students, with classes. I could message Mr. Thornton and say, hey, can we hold this assembly? I can message I'm the girls basketball coach. I can message all the basketball girls and say, hey, open gym at 2 o'clock. And that's the most appropriate way for us to communicate with students. You could message a teacher and say, hey, I submitted this assignment for you to see. But we want you guys to go through and practice all that, so when you show up to class, you are prepared. We've downloaded our human dignity policy in there so you guys see it. You can practice what it looks like to go through that. So this is going to be your first assignment. So when you show up to class on Wednesday, you're familiar with how on campus works. And that's really important for that learning curve because technology is hard. And this is brand new of how to use the Surface. And that's really important for us because some people have never used technology. Some people are very proficient at it. So we just want you guys to familiarize yourself with what this looks like because everybody is going to be using the same piece of technology. And so your work expectations will be every day to be uploading and using this device and this on-campus system. But I will say, there's a lot of people available to help you on campus. I will say, I'm not one of them. This is one of the skills that I do not have. I need a lot of help myself. So one of the people will be Mr. Vishnoff, who you guys met in the atrium. His team of student helpers. You're going to meet Mr. Burek later on. He will be able to help you, but we want to offer a lot of support to you guys this summer if you need it. I know some people are like, you know what, I'll figure out myself. Mom and dad will help me. You might have an older sibling. Utilize that support. But also, don't wait too long if you need help. I will say, I've had students that it's week 2, week 3 of Summer Academy, and they are floundering, and they are struggling with just the technology. Don't be afraid to ask for help. We are here to support you with that piece, to submit work, because that's what IT is here for all summer, and we've actually got a group of students that we have hired to support all of you guys. So please just ask for help in any way possible, especially with that work submission. And then I want to finally just talk about just classroom engagement. We've got students from probably 35 different middle schools coming together to create your freshman class. And so with that, there's going to be just different expectations that you guys are used to from your previous middle schools and just different high schools. I know we've got a big group of transfers even taking Summer Academy classes. So just be prepared for different learning styles, different teaching styles, and be excited for what your teachers have to offer this summer. We met with all the different Summer Academy teachers this morning, and they are excited for you to be in their classes, and I know you saw their pictures behind me as you guys were coming in today, but be excited to be engaged. We've got students and families on Zoom right now, and you're going to have some Zoom learners in your classes this summer. Be excited to engage with them because it's going to be a really unique experience for Summer Academy, and I'm excited for what you all get to be a part of this summer. As I transition, I want to talk about just some people to be in connection with that will be able to offer some support. As we said, I will be around all summer on campus. Another person I want to introduce is Mr. Eric Bowling. He's going to be if you want to stand up, good sir. He will be the other administrator. He's also teaching a Summer Academy class. You're getting a good wave back there. Eric, what's your Director of Student Leadership and Development? That's one of your many Student Leadership and Service, I'm sorry. Psychology department. Assistant football coach and former girls basketball coach. He retired this year as my assistant coach, but maybe I'll get him back. So he will be around helping out. He's another go-to person. If you ever need anything, his information's up there. And then I also want to identify student services will also be on campus. So counselors will be around. I know they did a lot of registration meetings with you guys. So if you need anything or if students need any additional support, student services will be available. Holly Ball, Gina Churchill, Kermit Ellison, they will also be available on campus. I know some of you are connected with them. They are a great team of people that I cannot speak more highly of. So stay connected with them as well. And then, like I said, Mr. Bob Vishnoff will be around in IT. So you've got a great team of people ready to care for all of you wonderful students.
Fantastic. All right, so out of everything Ms. Carwell said, students, you need to hear that one piece, that you have a homework assignment coming out of tonight that's due by Wednesday, and that's to get on campus and to complete that on-campus 101 class, all right? So the instructions, the login instructions that you got will direct you to where you need to go. And again, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to any one of us. We can help you. And the homework assignment.
Reach out to either one of us?
Yeah, well, me, or Mr. Bowling, or Mr. Vishnoff, not Ms. Carwell, on the tech side of things at least. And yeah, so that's important that you engage with that so that teachers can hit the ground running with their classroom content instead of having to walk you through on-campus instruction, because the teacher who put together the class is one of our fabulous science teachers, Ms. Caitlin Johnson, and she cares deeply that students are equipped for day one. Okay, I'm going to hand it over for the rest of our time together to Mr. Josh Burek, our Instructional Technology Director, and he's going to walk us through essentially what you just received as a family is a pretty powerful piece of technology. And what I appreciate about Josh is his approach and philosophy towards use of technology is, again, Christ-centered, biblically directed, wanting to equip us as a community with the information that we need to know to handle technology effectively. I have to say this about Josh as well. He's been at Wheaton Academy for a long time. He's worn many different hats. And in 2013, Josh, was it that we became a one-to-one school?
Yes, I believe so.
So 2013, so 8 years ago, one-to-one school. That means every student came into school with a device. Josh pioneered and championed that effort that we as a school and faculty would be equipped to handle learning management systems and online tools to help students become 21st century students, but also to help break down kind of communication barriers. Like there's all sorts of things that went into prepping our community for the technology use that we had. And that meant that over the course of the past 8 years, we had days that we were doing some strategic professional development on campus with our teachers that we called off-campus learning days, because students had the technology and device at homes for students or for teachers to be able to communicate assignments at home. And that meant that last year, on Friday, March 13th, when the state announced that schools were no longer allowed to meet in person, there's so many schools and districts around the state that had to basically suspend school for weeks while they figured out how to deliver instruction remotely. We were equipped because we had been doing it for years, thanks to the effort of Josh Burek. And even over the course of the past, give this man a round of applause.
Very kind.
And even over the course of the past year, Josh had to tackle the challenge of how it was that we were going to deliver instruction remotely and give remote students access to the classroom live. And Josh and his team came up with a brilliant solution with these docking stations, cameras, microphones, OWL cameras now, all of these things that he has helped equip our community with. And I'm excited that y'all get to hear from him. So I'm going to turn it over to Josh. Take it away.
All right. Thank you very much. You can go to the next slide just so we have this. That is my contact information. Brad, thank you very much. That's very kind. Yes, full transparency, 8 years ago, I wasn't like, I think there's going to be a pandemic pretty soon, so we should make sure. But the idea of being able to do remote learning has always been something, if a student was sick or on vacation, to be able to give that as a service to our community was always great. It was just we were blessed to be in the position we were in. And yes, and I want to emphasize the fact that I had a team that I was working with that was huge in that. So my name is Josh Burek. That is my email. That is my cell phone. If you call my school phone, you're probably going to get a full mailbox because I get a lot of calls from telemarketers and I tend to ignore them. It's not their fault. But this is the best way to get in touch with me. So just want to make sure that's clear. Moving on to what I'm going to talk about, I've kind of broken it down to what's out there, philosophy, protect and empower, and then resources. So what's out there, I'm going to talk pretty straightforwardly about what's out there technology-wise, the good, but then also the alarming, okay? And I just want to process that a bit with you, and I'll explain why I want to dwell on that a little bit. Then, to build off of that, I want you to see what our philosophy is with technology. And to me, that's the most important part, because when I was doing the research a number of years ago, and that 21st century learner phrase was being kicked around, as I was doing the research, the device was a small part of that. All right, and so we'll get into that a little bit. Protecting and empowering your students. We're going to talk a little bit about how you can do that, how we will partner with you on that, at least start to touch on that. That could be like an all-day seminar, but we'll start to touch on that, and then some resources that you can access. So I have 3 short clips. It's from Common Sense Media. I think they're a great website, a great resource for parents in terms of learning about what's out there, what you can do to work with that, and so on. So they're going to bring up some pretty straightforward issues in this, and then I'll build from that. So go ahead.
These kids are literally being born with like an iPod in their hand.
My 6-year-old figured out my password.
He's actually teaching us
That it's
been one of the most difficult parts of parenting so far.
Just because you have a filter on your phone, no.
I never would have had access to what he could accidentally come across on a computer.
He said, "Mommy, there's naked women on my phone." Nobody that I know has come up with a good way to deal with all of this. I want them to be savvy to the new world.
But it comes at a cost.
These kids are learning how to hack everything.
He can figure out things that my husband and I don't know how to do.
She was swiping, scrolling, clicking.
There's ways that they can sneak around without us ever finding out now.
She sent a picture to my ex-boyfriend.
Their little minds are really creative, and they can get into some pretty scary stuff pretty quick.
We teach them at a young age to use it as a wonderful tool. We got her a tablet for reading. That does not happen.
She's inside the house all day, every day, on her pad, playing her games.
We trusted her with what she was watching.
And then they see something that's so graphic, can't explain why people are doing or even doing that.
I just feel like I have to be very cautious about what he's exposed to.
So there's a number of lines in there that I love, just because in terms of what it gets us kind of processing a little bit. Born with an iPod in their hand. And by the way, I have 4 kids, all right? One is 13, then 12, 10, and 7. I actually hosted international students for several years, so I have had high schoolers. It was over the course of at least 4 years. So I can really appreciate the perspective of a parent when it comes to this. And I resonated with a lot of this, both as a parent, but then also as an instructional technology director. Born with an iPod in their hand, like our kids have always grown up with technology. Like, that's an important thing to realize, I think, that has ramifications. Not all negative, it just kind of, it's an is, if you will. You know, that does not happen. I laugh at this because I've experienced this with my own children. You know, we get them that device. We homeschool, so I've got like 2 iPads at home. I'm like, this is a homeschool device. We're not using it for anything else. Come home like later that day, they're watching, you know, a movie on it. So I relate to that. He's actually teaching us about technology. I want to revisit that. It's scary stuff, completely. Again, that's something I resonate with. They sneak around, right, and they can hack everything, which, I want to revisit that as well, because I don't think all students are sneaking around. I don't think all students are hacking to get past our filter system. It can happen. We need to be aware of that, all right, but there's more to that story. They're inside the house all the time. All right, inside. We moved to a house that has a 2-acre pond and like 4 acres of woods in West Chicago because we wanted our kids to get out of the house, all right? I'm still like, get out of the house. You have been inside too long. So I totally understand that. What they can accidentally come across, and I think that's a really important phrase. Accidentally come across. Our students, when they find stuff on the internet, they're not necessarily always actively seeking that out. And that's important to keep in mind when we have conversations with them. You can go to the next slide. Nobody has come up with a good way to deal with this. You hear that communicated. And I would say we certainly don't have the market cornered when it comes to dealing with technology. Believe me, but I do feel like we have a good philosophy. All right, that we can at least work from. And so let me dive into that right now. Oh, before I dive into that right now, I do want to hit on what some of the issues are. And the reason why I bring this up is not to depress you or to make you feel like that there's no hope. I need you to hear me on that, all right? I think it's important to bring this stuff up because sometimes we think there's only 1 or 2 biggies out there in terms of how technology can be detrimental to not just our students, but to us as well. And if we're aware of those things, that is a huge part of the battle. That's a huge part of the battle. So obviously pornography is a big one. Sexting is something that has come up, right? And those tend to be kind of the two big things that we tend to focus on, and they are obviously problematic. And those are things that I feel like as a school, like we're always kind of talking about these things with our students in terms of how do we deal with that as people who are made in the image of God. But cyberbullying, trolls, haters, sexual harassment, racism, xenophobia can be just as devastating for some people. And that's a big deal. That's something obviously at Wheaton Academy that we are, and as soon as we get a sniff of that happening, we are on that, all right, because we know that that can be a major problem. And I think we do a good job dealing with that. Violence, marketing to children, I'm dealing with that with my son, who is on the Nintendo Wii. It's just there. And so how does that shape them in terms of like a consumer and what they ultimately feel is the most important thing to get, right? Technology addiction. We talk a lot here about how technology can impact your self-image. All right, that's a huge, huge thing. That ties into social media, obviously, on the right-hand side there. So we're not the kind of school that is going to like prohibit social media. Or obviously not in the middle of, I don't want them on, Facebook in the middle of class. Okay, but if they're in the hallway, right, and they're Snapchatting or what have you, I'm not policing that. Right, but we are having conversations about how is that impacting how you view yourself compared to how God created you and views you as a human being. Because that's a big deal. And we all can relate to that, right? Myself as a father, hopping on Instagram, I have got to be, well, that dad's doing that with his kids. Man, I'm not that good of a father. It just rolls instantly, right? I know my wife has talked about that dynamic and looking to see what other people are doing, with their kids and how that can pressure us and make us feel a certain way about ourselves. And that is a huge thing to get in and address. Privacy is a big opportunity. Lost opportunities, just talking about in terms of how we manage our time and balancing that. Anonymity, I would argue, is also a top issue. If you ever find that your students, if you're doing this, if you are creating an anonymous presence on the internet, that is something you have to look very carefully at. Because there's a lot of problems with that, right? There are apps out there that say you can be anonymous, and then they will shape it like it's great because you can be who you really want to be, right? And that can devolve into other things like bullying and just tearing down the community. And by the way, even though you're anonymous, you're really not anonymous. And that's another talk for another day. But that's a big issue. Video games, now, full transparency, I am a gamer. Right? I'm going to go home tonight after the kids are in bed. I'm going to hop on my Xbox. I'm just going to decompress a little bit. I'm going to save the universe from, the evil that's out there, right? And then I'm going to go to bed. It's going to be beautiful, right? I have friends, quote unquote, all right? Right. And actually, I would say at this point, I have genuinely good friends. One lives out on the East Coast. One works in a mine in Montana. All right. And we weekly get together to play games. And it's awesome. And it has led to conversations like, let's talk about faith. Let's talk about what's going on in our world today. It's been really cool. With that said, right, we have to teach our students, right, how to go about doing that. Because when you play video games now, it's like you're in a community, right? And I've seen both the positive, and I've also seen how it can be devastating as well. Right. So social media, cheating, deep fakes are a thing that are becoming a little bit more prevalent. The cheating thing is a big issue, right? And really helping students with that in terms of what that means and how easy it can be to do that, but then also just talking about how we want to avoid that. And then honestly, just knowing what everyone's doing. as well, like just being aware. And we encourage you to do that, and that's why we go through this list. So that's some stuff that's out there, all right? Those are some ways that we deal with some of those issues, and then I'm going to talk a little bit more about our philosophy. If you want to move on to, let me make sure, yes, to the next slide here. Actually, it'll be 2 more slides. Our technology philosophy. So these are kind of the pillars, okay? First of which is self-management. This is a very practical one where I have a passion for file management. Knowing where your files are, naming them correctly, all right, or informatively. Untitled-1.doc is a terrible, terrible file name, all right? I will have some students come to me and say, I lost my document. I'm like, what'd you name it? I don't know, I just hit save. And so we do a search in Windows Explorer, and it's like just a million. And then they say to me, well, I'll just redo it. I'm like, no, that is a terrible use of your time. You go back to the other issues like time. So just managing resources, because we do feel that technology is something that you all are going to have to manage for the rest of your lives. It's going to be a tool, and so we want to make sure that you're using that tool as efficiently as possible. Social media, I've mentioned this a little bit already, but how do we harness social media for good? How do we use that to build community, all right? And so we've seen people tear people down with it, but I've also seen students here, use it to bring the community together and actually to try to tackle some real world issues. Even when we look at raising funds for Haiti or for organizations that are battling, sex trafficking, like we've used social media to help fight those battles. Creativity, right? I appreciate a really crispy PowerPoint presentation. I do, but sometimes we think like that's the pinnacle of creativity when it comes to using technology. And so we want to encourage students to use this technology as creatively as possible. And a lot of that is how can we use technology to solve problems in our classroom and even outside of that. It goes beyond doing some research, although a critical component, it goes beyond writing that research paper or designing that crispy PowerPoint. Worldview. I firmly believe that how you use technology really reveals a lot about what your worldview is. Right? So if you minimize the impact of your words on the internet and how you use social media, I think that reflects a little bit about how you view the world, right? And when we look at the use of technology through a Christian worldview, I think that will shape how we use technology. And so that's a huge pillar with our technology philosophy. Information literacy, or if you just want to sub out that phrase and just put pursuit of truth, that would work as well. And all of these are valuable, but this one might petrify me the most. That if our students graduate from here and have a difficult time processing and understanding information and their sources and where it's coming from, then that's a problem. Because as Christians, right, we want to pursue truth. Like that is like the ultimate, right? We follow Jesus, we seek truth, we pursue truth. And in our world today, that information literacy is critical to that. Because if we're not sensitive to that, if we're not really taking the time to examine what we're looking at and where that information is coming from, all right, then we're not ultimately pursuing that truth. And it can really shape our views. And so that's a big one for me. I'm also a history teacher as well, so check your sources, is a big thing for me. Global awareness, obviously this is kind of an easy one just in terms of having a device that you can kind of look up and see what's going on in the world outside of our world here at Wheaton Academy is a big thing. And that can help empower what we do in the classroom, which is really exciting. And then ultimately, discipline. Right? Like it really does give you the opportunity to practice discipline. I've had conversations with students You know, and I see them in the back of the classroom, and I'm like, they're not paying attention. They're totally on YouTube right now or something. You know, or they're playing that like Chrome game, like when you lose an internet connection, a little dinosaur just kind of jumps over things. Cool game, all right. But I know they're not tracking, and so the approach that I really try to take with that is, okay, let's have the conversation. Like, we got to talk about, you know, how disciplined are you being in the classroom right now? Like, we have to figure this out together, all right? Because when you leave here and you're still doing that, like, you're gonna be in situations where people aren't gonna care, and then that's gonna really be an issue, okay? So all these pillars here, you know, the one-to-one program helps us really kind of tackle, I think, these critical issues. So, the next thing I want to talk a little bit about is, so how do we address some of this stuff more specifically? Like, what's your role in that and what's our role in that? So I have some very, very serious video. They're not, it's Will Ferrell. So let's roll these clips.
I'm not hungry.
What's wrong, sweetheart?
I miss Daddy.
I know. We all miss him.
I miss him more.
Oh, no, I miss him the most.
I miss him a lot.
No,
I
miss him so much more.
Hey, everyone shut up. This filter makes me look like a cat. It's so funny, it's making me cry.
Next
like, guys, honestly, 5 more minutes. Like.
Oh, it's so nice to all be sitting down together. You can tell me something they did today.
I drew a horsey.
Good for you, son. Anyone have a charger? I'm at like 2%. So, sweetie, tell me about your day.
Well, today, actually, I was driving to the grocery store, and I saw a dog.
Oh, you saw a dog?
Daddy, put your phone in the basket.
The basket's so crowded, though.
Just put it in.
Oh, wait.
Put it in the basket.
In the basket.
Put it in the basket, right?
It's an easy thing. Just put it in the basket.
Please put it in the basket. Thanks. All right. Let's see what we think of this meal.
As long as it's in the basket, though, I can technically still touch it, right?
All right, so I play those clips for you because as we talk about, you know, helping students with their use of technology, I think a critical piece of that is really having self-awareness in terms of how we're using technology. So I see, you know, the dad at the table there, and I can relate to his temptation where I'm sitting at that dinner table and wanting to, you know, pick up that phone, or I'm, you know, thinking about something that I need to look at. And how we use technology and how we communicate to our students about technology is huge. It's huge. So, and I want to articulate very clearly here, we are here to partner with you in this endeavor. All right, I'm here to partner with parents. I'm also, students, here to partner with you as well, right? If you need help or need to brainstorm ideas on how to use this technology, it's part of my role. So I don't have this like vision of the program like, here's an extra device, deal with it. Like, that's not my perspective. It's like, here's an extra device. I completely understand that this makes your life more involved, all right? And I'm here to help you navigate that. Mr. Vishnoff is here to help you navigate. Student Services, in a lot of ways, is here to help you navigate that. So I just want to emphasize that. Now, with that said, moving to the next slide, we do really have this philosophy that you need to buy in to the idea that you are the expert and the example. Okay? And what I mean, I already talked a little bit about example, right? But in terms of the expert, I'm not saying you got to go get certified in, like, you know, networks or something like that. What I'm saying is we all need to make the effort to read about what's going on, right? That we need to kind of be aware of what's happening in our world. Not necessarily learn all like the nitty-gritty of how a filter works like under the hood, but kind of assessing a little bit like, what kind of filter do we have? Like, is this what we want? Like, what are some options out there? Or what are some of the top 5, like, greatest apps that students can use right now? Maybe what are the top 5 most alarming apps that students can access right now? That's where websites like commonmediasense.org can be super helpful. They have a lot of articles that are kind of structured in a way they're easily consumable, but they kind of give you a sense of, they help you become more aware of what's going on out there. It kind of goes back to the initial clips where he's teaching us how to use technology. I get that, believe me. I have some students teaching me some new things about technology, all right? But I am also not like, just like wilting and like, oh, well, they're just gonna teach me everything. Like that's where it can get a little bit dangerous. So I just want to encourage you with that you take on more of the idea that, okay, I'm going to be the expert, I'm going to be informed, so I have an idea of what's going on. I also encourage you to make sure you're having the conversation with your students. Okay, so if you are concerned, have that conversation. It can be hard to have that conversation. I remember when I was hosting students, when they were in high school, I was like, I really don't want to have that conversation. It's going to be awkward, all right? It's going to be tense. I got to make them dinner later, and then we got to sit down at the same table. Like, man, I'll just wait. And I would urge you to fight that urge. With that said, when you have that conversation, take a deep breath and think a little bit about how Jesus would have that conversation, which might sound mildly cheesy to some of us, but when I think about how Jesus dealt with situation, that is the example I try to follow before I dive into what could be a hard conversation. And we want to enter into that conversation with love, with compassion, with empathy, because we were all that age at one time in our lives, because you never know what's going to come out of that conversation. Maybe you're concerned they're doing something on purpose. It could have been an accident. All right, so that's a very simple thing, but it's been interesting to see over the years how many parents haven't had those conversations before things get at a level that we need to deal with. Scaffold the structure. On campus is our learning management system. That means you have access to their grades and you have access to assignments and kind of what their academic life is. When they are freshmen, sorry freshmen who are in here, I feel that you need to be checking it pretty often, right? They are new to this, all right, they might need, and look, I want to say this one thing. I really say all this humbly. I do not have the formula. This might not work for your family dynamic, and that's totally cool. Lord knows I've made many mistakes with some of this stuff, so I'm not sitting up here preaching. It is just some thoughts. So when students are freshmen, I think more accountability can be a healthy thing, just as they're getting used to being at Wheaton Academy and being in high school. As they get older, by the time they are seniors, then I think it's really a good thing that we are hands off with them senior year. All right, so that they have some sense of how to handle life before they go to college. And I'm not saying completely ignore your child, all right, and again, the situation can vary. There are some seniors I have had that need a lot of accountability, all right, but the goal here is that we scaffold the structure. Now let me tell you a story. I had a student, international student. He came in, he was a sophomore. He had a rough freshman year. I barely checked his grade fall semester. Grades were not good at the end. I mean, they were okay, but they could have been a lot better. I was frustrated. And so the second semester, baby, I was all over it. I made sure I got every email notification. All right, as soon as I got a notification that somebody was turned in late, I was texting him. I was all over it. And I realized by the end of the semester, it was one of the worst things I could have done. Because he was stressed out. There just got to a point where there was literal anxiety happening. And so my encouragement to you is that we really try to find that balance. when you're doing, because there are even studies out there about how if we are too involved in checking grades, and all that stuff, that it really can be make things just way more difficult for the student. Remember, teachers, like, we don't grade stuff on time a lot. All right, I mean, I always do. No, anyway. So, or like due dates. That's a big one. So I will put an assignment up there, I'll put a due date on there, and then something will happen in class, and I'll say in class, I'll say, hey, look, you know, we got delayed today, you know, printers weren't working, so let's push it off till Monday. And then after class, students will come up to me, they'll ask me questions. I'll completely forget that I've moved the due date, and then I'm on to my next thing, and I will forget to change the due date on campus. All right. So then if the child comes home and says, Mr. Bierks, I didn't have to, and you're like, it says on campus, that's where things can get we have to kind of take a step back and assess the big picture. So those are just some examples, some thoughts. Filtering. So we obviously have a filtering system here at Wheaton Academy. When these devices are on campus, they go through a filtering system. We have a firewall, all those things in accordance with laws and so forth. However, all right, there is no filtering software installed on the device. All right, so if you take this straight home, it will not be filtered. We haven't installed like Covenant Eyes or anything on there. And the reason why we do that, it's not because we're anti-filter, it's because this kind of goes back to the you are the expert thing. We want you to invest in that. Like if that's something you really want on the devices, then we want you to take that and run with it. And again, partnership, we can help you with that, all right? But we want you to take that initiative with the filtering. With that said, keep in mind that when you put filtering software on a device, it's not an automatic safeguard against everything, okay? Anything in this world can be hacked and circumvented. You can just Google it half the time, all right? So because of that, we also approach at Wheaton Academy, like we really believe that it's about addressing character first. Like that is the ultimate filtration system, right? So that's how we attack a lot of things here at Wheaton Academy. That's why those conversations are so critical. That's why your example is so critical. Your transparency about making mistakes in technology use can be huge in helping students grow. All right, so those are just some comments on filtering. Also, they need to own it. And what I mean by that is students, like if they're gonna do what we ask, you know, at the end of the day, long term, students, I think you can relate to it. And honestly, I can relate to this as a human being. Like you have to really kind of own the idea of like, that's a good idea. I'll give you an example. So a number of years ago, we tried this thing where we said no phones in chapel. Okay, no phones in chapel. We took a month just to try to do a tech-free thing to get students to kind of feel like what it would be like without having their phone. I did not tell teachers, you got to enforce it, like take phones away in chapel, because it would not have done anything. We would have taken a phone away from an unwilling student and they would have been grumpy the whole time and probably not even paid, you know, wouldn't have paid attention in chapel anyway. So we talked a lot about why we were doing it, why we thought it was a good idea. And it was pretty amazing how many students chose not to bring their phones to chapel. And it made an impact on the culture for a while. Teachers came up to me and they were just commenting like how much of an issue cell phone use was. And because I think it was because we had like just made a case like this is why it's a beneficial thing for you. So really I encourage you to try to approach things from that angle. So next slide. I'm going to wrap things up here. Here are some filtering. A lot of these you probably have heard of, but if you are interested in downloading, installing some filtering software, those are some suggestions. I've mentioned Common Sense Media as a resource. Go to the next slide for me. This is another resource. So just to make sure I'm clear, we do not have tech support for you on the weekends. Okay, we have had some parents kind of call in and demand that, and unfortunately that's just not something we provide. However, If you want somebody to come over to your house and maybe help you install a filtering system, help you install, a new router, this is somebody who can call. He used to work here at Wheaton Academy. He's a Wheaton Academy dad. His children have graduated, but he's a great resource that you can access. Okay, I'm going to. We're going to go to the next slide here. And I have a quick video. I'm going to tell you just kind of when to move on from here. Just want to get into a few student expectations with this sassy video. I wanted them to at least see the baby like saying, yeah, but no, we should move on. Okay. All right. So students, those are some critical expectations. Okay. And I'm not going to go over them again, but big thing, make sure you're bringing it and you bring it charged and bring your charging cord. All right. So some other expectations, we do not have loaners. Okay. Oh, and by the way, a point of clarification. This was made last year when we got new devices. The Surface you have is 1 year old, so it is not brand new. I mean, it's really pretty darn new, but it's not fresh out of the box. Just want to make sure we have them on a 3 to 4 year cycle here. But we don't have loaners, so if you forget to bring it to school, you're not going to be able to go to IT to borrow one. All right. It becomes a discipline issue if you don't adhere to those expectations. Like if you chronically don't bring your Surface or you chronically don't bring your charger, and it just gets to a point where it feels like this passive-aggressive behavior, then we kind of up the level of confronting that issue, okay? It shouldn't be a problem, but just so you know, that's kind of where we're coming from on that. Next thing, just a couple of other tidbits that sometimes people miss. If you take this Surface, all right, and you throw it in a lake by accident, all right, we are only charging you $200 the first time to replace it, which is a really good deal. All right. Now, if you break something on here that costs less than $200, we typically only charge the cost of that repair. The thing is, with the Surfaces, if you break it in some way, it's usually well over $200, no matter how small it is. If you break it again, it goes up to $300. If we have a third issue, we're going to have a conversation, be like, what's going on? All right, but you have to pay the full price for replacement. That line is only if you keep the thing in the case. If you take it out of the case and you break it, the first time it goes right to full price. Keep it in the case. I know you want to take it out of the case. Keep it in the case. Keep it in the case. I know you want to take it out. Don't do it. You can't put stickers on it. Please don't put stickers on it. We used to allow that, but it's really a pain to peel them all off at the end of the year. Your name's on it. That's a good sticker. All right. That's it. I know. I don't have any on my other Surface. I'm all over. Okay. Back it up. Back it up. Please back up your device. We have some resources on how to do that. Okay. The next slide. This is a great web page that has all sorts of resources, tutorial videos on how to do stuff, things that you can access. It's really well crafted. Obviously, if you're still struggling after that, please call us. I mean, we're here for you, but this is a great resource for you to access. That is on, yes. Wait, but go back. Yes, family, and I know this because earlier today I texted someone, I'm like, where is it? I can't find it. All right, because I didn't go families.wheatonacademy.org. So yes, so that is where you would access that. So with that, again, this is my information, and that is all I have. Thank you very much.
That's our Summer Academy orientation. I really appreciate y'all coming. And I'd like to wrap our time up in prayer. And again, invite you to come on up front to talk to any one of us if you have questions about anything. But let's bow our heads and let's commit this time over Summer Academy to God in prayer. I'm so thankful, Lord, that you have called each of the people here to this place. You have work to do in and through this place in student lives, and we just ask you to move and to work. I'm mindful even after a technology presentation like that so much of what is happening regarding technology and connectiveness is an attack on identity. And God, maybe we be encouraged and reminded today that our identity is grounded firmly in your great love for us. We have the privilege of engaging with the world around us from a place of approval, not striving for it. God, thank you for Jesus. Thank you for his love for us. God, we just ask that you help our hearts to love you the same and to love others well. May we learn how to do that here. We commit Summer Academy to you. Use it, God, and it's in your name we pray. Amen. All right, have a great night.